Hello, my name is Mike Maddie, and I am a secondary STEM curriculum specialist with McGraw-Hill. I'm here today to talk to you about High School Inspire Science and using it to assign material and to create lesson structure within your classroom, whether it is in class or for maybe those that are trying to do outside learning, whether absent or whether in a remote learning environment. So when a student logs in or the teacher logs in, they're going to see a couple key things on their home landing page called the dashboard. Number one is the calendar. What should we be doing, or what are we going to be doing today on Monday, March 16th? And they're going to be able to see, students will be able to see exactly what they should be doing. They can also, you'll see calendar is also over here to the left. I'm going to click calendar here, and it's going to show me a week setting and also maybe a month setting of what we're doing both today and into the future. So I have already set up my day 1 and day 2 of science, the 16th and the 17th. Together, we are going to create a longer learning path as we move forward in our instruction. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my dashboard, my home page. So we've talked about the calendar. The other key piece is the Browse Your Course. This is your table of content and is broken down into four major levels, actually. Program resources, whole course. What do I need for the whole course? Well, it might be my pacing guide. It might be my materials list. It might be my whole teacher's edition. Bunch of different resources in here to take a look at. My teacher's edition. My answer keys to some different resources. So there's a lot of good things in here, including your materials list, your pacing guide as well. So there's some good resources within the program resources course materials. That's level 1. The next level is to go down to the unit level. If I break that open, I can then see the module level, and I can then see the lesson level. The unit level covers a couple different key pieces of resources, primarily the first category, which is my teacher resources. What do I need as a teacher to help me prepare? I need answer keys, I need a STEM project guideline, I have my answer key to my science probes. Those are at your unit level. The learning resources is student-facing materials. So, the science probe that I want my students to see, add to the student page. My STEM unit planner. If I am not going to be doing this STEM unit project, I just take these off and my students will not see those resources. If I'm in a remote learning activity or if I have students that are absent, I think both of these at this unit level, both the probe and the STEM unit project, are very group-based. So if I am doing a remote learning where a student is homesick or we're in a situation where students aren't coming into class, I'm not going to necessarily do these as often because they are more efficient as a group setting. But I can always add it to the student page. Okay? And that means that I'm going to give it to them as a resource. Next level, beyond the unit level, is your module level. This is where you're going to connect each of the lessons that you teach on a daily basis together. So all my Unit 1 ecology modules, within that, I'm going to have principles of ecology. I'm going to have all those lessons, but this is going to connect those lessons together. Very similar format. Planning and presentation. Teacher things. My TE, my answer guides. Learning resources. Student-facing student edition. My Spanish student edition. A note-taking tool. My reading essentials, which is available both in biology and physical science, takes the reading level of the text, simplifies it by 2 grade levels so that students who struggle with reading or students who are struggling with understanding the material can have an easier reading set so that they can have more success in science. Again, the module level is about connecting the lessons together. I'm going to do a lesson opener, that phenomena-based instruction. And I'm going to do that phenomena. And again, this is a phenomena that's connected to all those individual lessons. And then as we work through the lessons, we want students collecting evidence in their CER. Now, what else is available at the module level? Well, there is a pretest. There are some launch labs. I would stay away from labs that have virtual learning or that if I'm doing a virtual learning environment, just because the students are going to struggle maybe with materials, and again, much more of a group-based instruction. but there's certain labs that I would use in the classroom as well. What else do we do at the module level? Well, of course, we tie all those lessons together. Teacher PowerPoint for review, a Go Further activity that is going to connect those pieces together for me and make sure that my students are truly understanding the concepts that we've learned throughout the lesson. And then, of course, we're going to do the assessment for all those lessons and create a test. And I'm going to talk to you about that a little bit later once we're done with the lesson structure. Go back up to the top to my pancakes, and I can go to an individual lesson. Again, similar setup in regard to these blades or these categories. The first one, teacher materials. What do I need as a teacher? My TE, my answer keys, stuff that I need. Maybe I'm going to do a PowerPoint if I'm instructing class. I could do that as well. Those are completely editable and downloadable. In regard to student resources, their notebook. Okay, again, this is a note-taking method for students to use as they work through the lesson. Reading essentials takes that reading piece from out of the textbook, simplifies it 2 grade levels so that students can have a better understanding of the material. I am going to talk about LearnSmart here in a little bit. So you'll see that those resources each have 2 little buttons underneath. Add to student page and include in presentation. These are resources that I want my students to use while they're learning. I'm going to add it to the student page. What I'm going to have as part of my instruction, my presenting in front of class, or I want my students to follow along, I'm going to include it in the presentation. 2 different things there. Okay. There's also the assign button. If I want my students to fill one of these out or to open it, I can click assign. Now my students, I can name it what I would like. So if I did day 2 science, okay, I'm going to do it for Wednesday and Thursday because we've already done Monday, Tuesday. I'm going to give my kids instruction, complete during these 2 days. And my students will have that. Do my point value. I can copy to my other classes. And I can assign that. All of my students have now gotten that as an assignment, also why my assignments now has a 1, that they now know that they need to complete. And it will show up on their calendar for those 2 days. Now, when I get into the 5E lesson model, the engage, again, how do we introduce the lesson? This to me is now where I want to do my teaching and I want my students to do their learning. So I'm going to include it in the presentation. Explore and explain. This is more your textbook, following along in the content that's covered. There might be a lab, again, always in yellow. Maybe I want to do this virtual lab. I can open it and I can take a look at it, but I'm going to add it to the student page. Maybe I assign it. Okay. Then I can get into my elaborate. This elaborate is a great worksheet, word prompt or writing prompt that really gets the students to write what they've learned in this lesson and to explain how that works for them. Great resource. This I would probably assign as well so that I know my students are explaining to me what they learn and how well they understand the material. Evaluate could be some flashcards, some vocab, great resource. Then you also have a lesson check. This I'm going to wait on. I'm going to do that assessment piece here at the end. But now that I've selected everything for my in-presentation and I launch the presentation, this is what my students are going to see and follow along with as they work through a lesson. And they have the ability to work. So watch the video, they can watch the video, they can answer some questions on the video, they can see some different things as they work through this resource. If they go down to the bottom, they're going to see all their resources, and again, they can just work right through these pieces, writing in responses. You get feedback if you have assigned that resource, but students can fill in as they work. But we're going to continue to work through. If I want to add that to my calendar, so my students know, I can click there and I can do add to calendar. I'm going to do that for the 18th and 19th. Click add to calendar. And now when I look at my calendar, remember we had the 16th and 17th already completed. Now I know, as a student and as a teacher, this is what we're working on the 18th and 19th. Well, what should we do on Friday, right? So on Friday, I'm probably going to do some type of homework, some type of evaluation tool, assessment, to be able to check my students' understanding. So if I am doing, I don't even remember which pieces we did, let's say Module 9, these are the lesson checks, homeworks, or topic content that I can check them on, that maybe I want to emphasize. I can assign this and it'll go out to them digitally. If I'm creating a work packet or I'm having kids work in class, I can click print and I can print this as well. Both give you the ability to be able to create multiple versions. So when I print, I can create, randomize the question order so it'll create different versions, and that'll be in a PDF format. Or I can assign it to my students just like I did the assignments earlier. And I can choose that I want to do this on the 9th, that Friday, the 20th. Okay. I can copy to my other classes if I want to. What can my students see when they're done? I may not want them to see their scores. It depends on you. There's different settings here. I can show some additional settings. Text-to-speech. I do want my kids to have access to that if they want it. Maybe I give them a reference sheet. Maybe I give them a calculator that I can choose some different calculators. But know that there's some flexibility here when I create an assessment. So now I've used a generic assessment, and now when I look at my calendar, I've got 2 days of a lesson, I've got 2 days of another lesson, and then we have an assessment on the 20th. All of those assessments that were in there are completely editable by just opening it up. I can remove questions, I can add questions. So if I want to add a new question that I have created, know that there's a wide variety of questions available. Our chemistry teachers are liking equation entry. A lot of teachers are enjoying the image labeling, but know there's a wide variety of questions to use to create assessments of your own, or you can use those pre-made assessments as well. Anything you have made an adjustment to will show up in my assessments, and that can be printed and assigned as well. So again, using Inspire Science, you're going to land on your dashboard. You're going to create a calendar once you start assigning things and adding things to the calendar. Your navigation is done through the table of contents. The other nice thing is wherever I was last, I can click course, and that'll take me to the last lesson I was working in. And now I can use these resources in 2 ways: as a resource for kids on their student page, or in my teaching presentation, or I can assign it to them so I get that data back. Once I've assigned it, or once I've added it to the calendar, it shows up on their calendar. It'll also show up in your assignments and their assignments so that you know what needs to be graded. So this one's closed. I have 6 things to grade. I can click on that and start grading them. Instant feedback to kids. Know that I can then look at assessments, and I can create and make assessments so my students can gauge their understanding, and I have a measure for that. That is really the key here for high school Inspire Science. Know that I was working within Inspire Biology, that this does cross over into each of the high school texts, but know there are some subtle differences in available resources like reading essentials and science notebooks. But know that the general navigation and availability of most resources is consistent across the platform. Thank you for using McGraw-Hill, and thank you for your time listening to me as I presented to you. Have a great day.